So I didn't start it as a business. So my first idea wasn't like opening like a company or an import company, even though it was in the back of my mind. So I started training as a sommelier. So I bought my first book. I remember like I had like some money and I signed up for wine classes. And then work in restaurant, I could, you know, pour wine, talking, like speaking about
I
wine.
mean, you were working in the right environment, right? Because you could, whatever you were learning in class, you could try it out, I guess, if you had it in the restaurant. Mm-hmm.
And then I remember I was serving a table and the guests say like, oh, what's your plan for the future? So you came from Italy. Say, yeah, you know, like one day I would like to open an import company. And this lady that I'm still in touch, she actually lives here close to St. Clair. She said, oh, I have a guy for you, Domenico. He actually imports food. And he actually was mentioning that he wanted to start with wine.
Vincenzo, welcome to the Creative Spin podcast, man.
Thank you.
It's been a while. We've been talking about, you gotta go.
I know.
Months go by, Christmas, New Year's.
You know, I remember like, you know, when I came back to Toronto here and I saw you at karate, and you said, oh, we're gonna do that, and you were leaving. I said, yeah, we're gonna do it. We postponed too much. And then the next time I saw you, like we were training, and I said, okay, listen, let's do it on Monday and Tuesday. We were like, wait, give me a sec.
No, it was funny when you said that. I'm like in my mind, I'm like my schedule. Okay, let me think.
But we were training. We were training.
You just turned back and said, we're doing it on Monday.
No. You know, I want to keep my word. We want to do it.
That was good. But listen, we're here now. We're having the conversation, and that's what matters. You know.
Thank you.
What we were saying just before we officially started the recording, it's showing up. Sometimes that's the most important thing.
It's the hardest part, in my opinion, at least for myself.
Yeah.
You know, to keep your word, to be accountable. We used that word before. And because also like we live in a world that, you know, because we always want pleasure. We always want dopamine. We always want to be accepted by other person. So for example, if I tell you right now, tomorrow, I'm gonna pick you up from your house, and I'm gonna bring you to the best restaurant in the city. You're gonna feel happy, right?
Of course.
And you're gonna say,
so what time are you picking me up?
You know, this guy is great. This guy is the best. Yeah. You know. So I receive that feedback from you.
Yeah.
I tell you something nice, you feel good. You give me a feedback. Oh, you know that you know you're the best, man. And then. So we get some pleasure for 2 seconds, but then we don't keep our word. So it's almost like a time that we want pleasure instead of working on ourselves, working our relationship, working on our job to get like a delayed pleasure.
Exactly. No, that's so true. And it's right.
So,
and it all comes down. That's what I was saying is like, we need to really be accountable. I think that's the one most important thing that lately I've noticed that a lot of people are putting that aside. Accountability is the one thing that is being put aside in society. And I feel like it's an issue already. And if people continue not being accountable, it's going to be more and more of an issue because, you know, it's like you're saying, if you ask someone to be somewhere, you know, people aren't so accountable like they used to before. They don't care. Oh, I was busy. I couldn't go last minute. And that's where I think, you know, we need to kind of shift back and be more accountable, right?
I think also the relationship with the stress.
Yeah.
And this thing that we always want to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So for example, I have a phone call with this client at 12. And then we start feeling stressed. We don't want to do it. We don't want to feel uncomfortable in the conversation, maybe because the topic of the subject, it's hard. It's about money. It's about something that we don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
So we try to postpone. We try to cancel. Why? Because we don't want to go out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
We want to feel confident, and the same in sport. You know, we were talking before, like, you know, we don't want to go sometimes to train. I mean, let's say I don't want to go sometimes because I don't want to feel the stress about, okay, like I stopped for a month and then I go there, maybe, you know, the other people, I was going to say my business partner, my training partner is gonna think that I suck, you know, or, if I go there, like I forgot the kata, maybe the instructor or my partner thinks that I forgot.
And just for a little bit of context, year.
But
We do. We're sometimes partners as well in karate, but you also do jiu-jitsu as well. You're a martial artist in some of the how did you explain it to me?
I'm a martial artist. Every time I show up to training,
showing up. That's
showing up. Yeah, I'm training to like in every aspect of my life. For example, I'm a good partner, with my fiancée. When I show her support, when I'm patient, when after a discussion of disagreement, I fix the things before she leaves. For example, like those are small examples. And now I started associating like the habit of training with an identity. So for example, I train because I'm a martial artist. I'm patient because I'm a great partner.
Interesting. That I like the way you're thinking there, because that keeps you accountable for being the best you can be at whatever you're doing at the moment, right?
And first with myself.
Yeah.
First of all, and then with my training partner. Be focused on what I'm doing. Be aware. Exactly. Be aware of what I'm doing, what my training partner is doing. Be aware of what the instructor, what the teacher is saying, how to perform the exercise, for example. So that's for me is being a great training partner. Yeah. But in this case, in this period of my life, I associated the good habit of training with my identity of being a martial artist, but I'm a martial artist every time I show up for training.
And that's the most important part. With all of this, it's showing up, it's being there, and it's paying attention, really. And martial arts is one of the things that, for me, and I think you're in the same boat, when we're there, you need to be 100% focused. And that, for me, is it's almost like, it is meditation in a way. Because you can't take your mind off of what you're doing. Either you're paying attention to what your sensei is telling you, or you're paying attention to what you're doing, either if you're doing it by yourself or if you have a partner. So for me, that is my kind of meditation, because I'm not distracted with phones, Exactly. Nothing is distracting us. We're there, we have to pay 100% attention to what we're doing, right?
It's almost freedom.
It is.
It's a liberation.
It's those 45 minutes an hour
of life.
You're like, oh, okay, nothing else is going to bug me right now.
No notification, no phone call.
Exactly.
Like you cannot check your phone.
Yeah.
So you're just performing the exercise. Yeah, it's true. It can be like a form of meditation.
It is definitely, I think for a lot of people, it must be a sense of meditation. But listen, we started talking about martial arts, but we need to introduce who Vincenzo is, because I'm sure that not many people know your history. So tell us a little bit, like, where do you come from? What have you done? Give us like what they say, the origin story, the origin story.
The context. Okay. I like to consider myself, of course, like being Italian is a big part of my identity. Like, speaking of identities, I consider myself not only Italian, but Southern Italian.
Okay.
That because Italy is such a small country, but in such a small country, you find so many cultures, so many identities, so many tradition. And also like being a very young country was just, unified in 1862. Yeah. And then before that were lots of small countries that were independent or under the influence of like big power. For example, southern Italy has been under the influence of Spain for like more than 500 years. So if you compare my tradition, my culture, the cuisine of my place compared to other regions of Italy, they are very different.
Very different, right? Yeah.
Even though like the modern history made us Italian. Like the thing about unify a country. The struggles against other countries. And then there were like two big wars that unified us. Yep. Then there was the school system that unified us, like the same program taught in every single school. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the television, the media, like every single kid's like in a region. Okay, but now I'm going off topic. Like we were talking about myself.
Which town are you from then?
So
which city?
I come from Bari.
Okay.
It's a city that you can find in Puglia.
Okay.
That's
we'll try to find it. Put a map here somewhere so that we can locate you.
So basically, it's very easy to explain. If you imagine that Italy has the shape of a boot, like of a shoe, I'm the heel. So Puglia is the heel of the boot.
Okay, all right. So now we know.
Yeah, that's easy to imagine. And also like Bari is just at the center, southern Italy, as I was saying. And
so that's the warmest part, right?
One
because
the warmest part.
You're in the southern part.
Southern part,
yeah.
Also, like, it's the easternmost region of Italy. So it's just in front of Greece, in front of Croatia, in front of Albania.
Yeah.
And that influenced a lot our culture and our traditions. But long story short, why I'm here? So I'm here also because of family history.
Okay.
Because my grandparents, after Second World War, they moved here.
Oh, really?
So maybe because we always like punch each other. We didn't have the chance.
This is the interesting thing. I mean, we've known each other for years now, but we never really sat down like this.
Yeah, finally.
You know,
this is good. This feels good.
Because we're like, hey, how's it going? Let's go.
Yeah.
But now it's interesting to find these things out. So they came.
Yes.
So
yeah, like imagine Italy after the Second World War.
Yeah.
Even though they had the economical boom, like the first 10 years after the war were very hard. Also, like 90% of the people were farmers.
Yes.
Or, working with animals, basically.
Shepherds. Back then, I think it was a lot.
Yeah, like in lots of European country. Like now, imagine like Europe as a romantic place, like full of cafes and restaurants and cool stuff. But, until Second World War, for centuries, hundreds of years, the society was always the same. There were the farmers that were more than 90% of the population. Yeah. Then there were, in southern Italy, there were like a very, very small percentage of like merchants and professional figure, whatever. And then there were the nobility.
Yes.
That's all. That's all.
It, yeah.
Before the industrial times, right? The industrial revolution that actually in southern Italy happened much later compared to England or Northern Europe. Anyways, they were farmers. Actually, my grandpa came from a farmer's family, but he was a tailor. So they moved here. Actually, he moved by himself to the States. He was in New York.
Okay.
New York City. And then, like, I remember, no, I mean, I never met him, to be honest, because he had an accent before I was born. But people told me that this cousin or this second grade uncle went to pick him up from the airport, and he brought him straight to the factory. Yeah, it was like a carpet factory or something like that.
So
no break.
He started working,
and he was working 7 days a week, all day, maybe like paid under the table, peas and paper. Like it was like a different situation.
So what happened? So then they went back to Italy?
No. And then actually he also had relatives in Toronto. So from New York, he went there he came here to Toronto basically. And then he told my family to come here. I mean, he told my grandma and their kids to come here. Anyways, another long story short, they were living around Danforth. Then they lived here for 20 years. Then while visiting Italy, my grandpa had an accident and died.
Oh.
Yeah. So then my grandma didn't want to be here by herself. They moved back to Italy.
Okay.
Even though like my dad also like he wanted to stay here, then he found a job with the NATO, with the army, and he was working as a translator with the NATO. So he was working in Verona, Naples, and then he met my mom. Anyways, I came here.
So you had roots here. There were some roots.
There is a reason. There's a reason.
Okay.
And also like in all the years, like when I was a kid, I used to come here all the time. I came here like 5-6 times during like Easter and summertime.
But you were raised in Italy.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. But I came here like before moving here, I came at least a dozen of times.
Okay.
Like summertime, I did a couple.
And how did
Christmas.
you feel the difference of the country and of the culture and all of that? What did you feel?
When I was visiting, this was like for us, for Italians, was America. We didn't even distinguish like between Canada and the States, right?
Yeah.
So when I came visit, we were stopping in Toronto, then going to Washington, going to New York, going to Boston, going to Miami, Orlando, Disneyland. I remember.
Yeah.
I had the chance, like I was lucky because my dad, in all this bad luck of his life, losing his dad, then moving back to Italy, to southern Italy, but bringing ideas from Canada. He was the first real estate agent, was the first realtor of Bari in his city.
Really?
So he made some business, he made some money. We had the chance to travel, right?
So is this where the business side of your business side came out?
Yeah, even my mom, she's very like business oriented.
Okay.
So they always, they never been employed by anybody else. They were always like an entrepreneur. They invested.
You had the entrepreneur bone in you.
Yeah, probably.
So the business side of things.
Yes.
When did that actually start for you?
So I came here 10 years ago.
Okay.
I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to stay here. Why? Because I just planned to come here and stay 3 months. Just learning English. I'm still in the process. So imagine like after 3 months, I was like, oh, I'm not, like my proficiency, like my level of English, I wasn't satisfied. So I said, okay, I'm staying a little bit longer. And then I stayed until Christmas. It was June. So I stayed until September. Now I'm staying until Christmas. Then I got my papers because, I was born from a Canadian citizen. So I'm also a Canadian citizen.
Yes.
Then I found a job here and there. So the business...
Trust me, I understand that story so well because the same thing happened to me. I came for 3 months and it's been 23 years now. Okay. So there you go.
I came for 3 months. It's already 10 years and I think I'm going to stay at least another 10 years. But the business side of my life came much later. Okay. If I have to be honestly, like the first 2-3 years, the first year was a little bit hard. I couldn't speak English very well. And also I had a conception of myself that was very different compared to nowadays. Mm-hmm. I wasn't believing in myself that much because I always was thinking why people should trust me in that job position. Like I'm just an immigrant. I'm just, like an Italian that just came here and they can speak English properly. So I think.
But do you think that has to do with youth, with age, or does that have to do with probably the way we're brought up in Europe, which is a little bit different mentality than it is here? But it's interesting you're saying that because your parents were entrepreneurs. So why do you feel that was happening?
I think age was a factor.
Okay.
I think I was 25. I think I turned 25 when I was here. Yes.
Yeah.
And it was probably a factor, but it was more like a state of mind. It was like my choice, like the decision that you take in the end are your responsibility. So I didn't have like a very high self-esteem, I'm opening up, I'm being very honest.
For sure. Do you think that had to do with the language?
A little bit.
Okay, and I'm asking this because I had the same issue.
Yeah.
Even though my English now I can go by and I pretend I know how to speak very well, but my first language is still Portuguese. When I got here, I was also a bit afraid to speak and to start, getting myself involved in things because I never thought that my English was ever good enough. Like I would hear all these other people speak English and I'm like, oh man, I can't speak that way. So I'd always stay in the corners and,
It happened to me as well.
Yeah.
But it was actually a limit that I decided that I imposed to myself.
Yeah.
Because we're in Toronto,
exactly.
you hear old accent from all around the world. So I think that's not the problem. The problem was my
it's mentally.
You know what? So I'm the same person. I have the same personality. I come from the same family history, but sometimes I do this analogy. It's like the glasses that I was wearing. I was wearing glasses that made me see and observe the world in a dark shades. Mm-hmm. Like everything was darker, everything was scarce, everything was evil. Like people were evil, like rich people were evil. Like I was talking and thinking and behaving from a scarcity mindset. I think that was the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, first because I was almost like an academic when I was in Italy. I was, I had a master's degree in corporate law, was studying, was traveling around the world in university. I didn't have any tangible mastery, skills.
Yeah.
So and then also I didn't know what to do. So it was weird because it was an ambivalence, was a duality. So I felt very liberated that I didn't have to do the things that I studied for, that I didn't like it at all. So I realized that. So I felt very liberated. So I realized that I could be anything I wanted.
Yes.
But at the same time, I didn't know what I wanted to be in a new country.
And this is where, sometimes putting yourself into a position where you go into a new country, at the same time, and I'm kind of speaking from experience, it allows you to open up and try new things because at the same time, you don't have that pressure from probably the family or probably the friends or because living in Europe, and I haven't been to Italy yet, But I'm pretty sure it's almost the same as Portugal. There is still in every city, in every town, this small town mentality, right? Everybody knows each other, everybody's family, everybody's friends. Yeah. And that is pressure. That sometimes coming to a new country, you're like, okay, I can reinvent myself.
Yes.
And I can be someone not different, or not that you're not, but a different side of you that is still you, but it's some part that you kind of left behind because of all of these pressures.
For sure. I completely agree. Also, like in Europe, in Italy, we are more conservative.
Yes.
We are less flexible. For example, if you come from a family, like probably you're gonna follow the steps of your dad or your grandpa. But it's not necessarily bad. It actually can be very good, especially in certain business. We're gonna talk about wine later, so I'm gonna make you some example in that sense. And also like you acquire the same mentality of a past generation, because you live with your parents, you live in contact with your grandparents, with your uncles, people from previous generations. Yeah. So your way of thinking is almost this. It's very.
It's that mindset.
There is an influence. There's a huge influence.
100%.
And if you're like with them every day, you're like close contact with them.
Those
you start
seeds,
thinking
they
like
put
that.
the seeds in your brain, right? Yes. And it's there. And you get to a point in your life, even though sometimes you don't like the way that they conduct their lives, but they've put that into you so strongly that even without you wanting to, you're doing it.
Yeah, it's like a program.
Yeah.
It's like a program.
Exactly.
But again, there is a duality in this. It's hard to explain, because I don't want to say that, for example, in my case, I'm just talking personally, I'm not saying that my uncle's way of thinking or my brother or my dad, it's a bad way. Like it's wrong. I'm not saying.
No.
And you're not saying that.
Exactly. I think everybody has their own perspective, but you're right. Is like their way of thinking isn't wrong. It's their way. Yeah. But I think.
But when you're young, you don't agree at all.
Exactly.
You don't like it at all. But at the same time, that's why there is like a duality. At the same time, it influenced you like very strongly, right?
100%.
So like you put yourself a program. So, when you go to another country, you say like, okay, like I don't have to follow the same program. I don't have to follow the same steps. But at the same time, when you realize that you have to reinvent yourself, that you can be whatever you want, that you can decide where to go, that you can decide a new direction, you can decide new goals. Also, like you feel almost like a vertigo, like to say like, okay, now what?
Because now the world is open.
Yes.
Now it's a playground.
Yes.
What can I do?
Yes.
Right?
So like for a year and a half, 2 years, I was like in that state of mind, like, like what can I do? What are my skills? What are my interests? But I was lucky enough also, because now we live in a time that we have access to the internet, we have access to podcasts, we have access to self-improvement books.
It's huge.
So like I started that path of like knowing myself. Even the Greeks, like even Socrates, like he said, like know yourself, know thyself.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of my passion, like philosophy, Greek culture, Roman culture, Latin culture, Stoicism.
I used to love philosophy when I was in school, in high school. Great. I took 3 years of philosophy.
Oh yeah.
Back in Portugal.
In Portugal. Yeah. So, that's another thing that we can talk.
We can do another podcast just on that.
No, exactly. No, like it's so different, like the way of teaching and the school program. But going back to why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Basically, I started working in restaurants, also because it was like a very fast and easy way to learn English. Mm-hmm. And then I asked myself, so what are my interests? And they said, okay, what I like to do. Like I like reading. I could like spend like days and days and weeks reading. I like art. I remember like the first thing I did when I was here, it was become a member of the AGO.
Yeah.
Like, it's a passion. And then I like food and wine, even though I didn't have any training to any of these things. So I said, what can I do? I said, okay, like, I can make a living with reading and this. Because I was coming from a scarcity mindset, I put these things about literature and art on the side. Even though like right now, today, if I start thinking like ways of making a living with these two things, I'm sure I can find a way.
There's always a way.
Because now I'm more confident in myself. 100%. I'm more confident in the world. I'm more confident in these kind of things. But I decided like in wine. So I said like, okay, I'm studying wine. So I didn't start it as a business. So my first idea wasn't like opening like a company or an import company, even though it was in the back of my mind. So I started training as a sommelier. So I bought my first book. I remember like I had like some money and I signed up for wine classes.
Okay.
And then work in restaurant, I could, pour wine, speaking about wine.
Yeah, I mean, you were working in the right environment, right?
Yes.
Because you could, whatever you were learning in class, you could try it out, I guess, if you had it in the restaurant.
For sure. Even like I was working in a pizzeria, nothing fancy, but I was explaining the wine to the guys, like, if it was a very humble, simple wine. And then I said, okay. And then I said, why don't I try to work like in a better restaurant with like a wine list and this and that? Yes. And I started working like in a famous restaurant. It was like a famous at the time here in Toronto. And then I became a sommelier. Mm-hmm. And then I remember I was serving a table and the guests say like, oh, what's your plan for the future? So you came from Italy. I said, yeah, like one day I would like to open an import company. And this lady that I'm still in touch, she actually lives here close to St. Clair. She said, oh, I have a guy for you, Domenico. He actually imports food. And he actually was mentioning that he wanted to start with wine. So she gave me the number of the person that would become my business partner.
This is amazing. I love these stories.
Yeah. And today is my business partner, Domenico. Maybe one day you're going to meet him, I'm sure. I mean, if you come to the office, you're going to see him.
We'll definitely meet him.
And I called him the very same day. And we took a coffee the day after. Wow. And he was saying, that's a great idea. Like, we can use your knowledge. And I said, I want to do this. I have some contact. But he said, I'm very busy right now because it's food business, the food part of the business. Yeah. But we can talk again maybe this summer. Another long story short. Like then I went to study in France. Then I came back. And they say, okay, is this the right moment?
But you went to study in France again? Wine? Okay. Okay, so you continued on that route. Okay. Yes.
Actually, here I took like 2 important certification here in Toronto. One is called WSET and one is called, I'm like a certified sommelier with the Court of Master Sommelier. That's actually like an international society, let's say. And then I went to France to study wine, like in wineries, tasting as much as I could. And I was tasting
a lot,
more drinking than tasting, to be honest. But let's say tasting wine every single day. And then I signed up for a marketing and management master in wine.
Interesting.
In wine business. So I got also some. So
at that point you knew that's what you wanted to do.
Yes. I didn't know. I mean, I was studying to do that. I already met Domenico, even though like when I was there, one of my ideas was to work as an export manager for a big company, for a big winery. Like export manager, you basically, for example, they say like, oh, we produce 20 wines and you bring these 20 wines around the world and you find importers in every single country that would buy your wine. So that was also my plan.
Cafe Brasiliano, where the coffee is truly amazing, but that's not all they have to offer. Their sandwiches will make your taste buds dance. Every bite is packed with flavor and freshness. Trust me on this one. The vintage style of this place isn't just limited to the decor. They even have a marketplace of quality products that you can browse while you're enjoying your coffee. Perfect to meet your friends or make new ones. Cafe Brasiliano is the perfect place for coffee, sandwiches, and a unique shopping experience. If you're in Toronto, don't forget to swing by at 80 Miller Street.
As you were getting yourself deeper and deeper into the wine business, that passion, did it start growing with it? Did you enjoy the world of wine? Did you enjoy everything that comes with that world? Like got us through a little bit. What really told you, like what really got you to continue and to really get passionate about it?
First of all, like when I started, like I knew a little bit about the wine of Southern Italy. And then I remember the first wine class that I attended. So the sommelier made us taste like one from Austria, one from Australia, one from France, one from Germany, one from Spain, and they had like like a haha moment, like, oh, there's so much more to learn.
Yeah.
So that was like the first catch moment, like the first connection moment with wine.
Yeah.
Because I realized that it was like a much bigger world. So I'm a very curious person. So like I love to study, I love to learn. And then, of course, like it's amazing when you go to a winery, you meet the owners, but you also meet the winemakers. That's and
there's always
usually the
good
same
stories behind that, right?
Okay, first of all, like wine is always made in beautiful places.
That is true.
Have you ever seen like a wine, like a vine, a vineyards, like in a city like Toronto? Usually you need like a special climate. You need like some elevation. You need like a slope.
Yeah.
You need other crops around. So when you go to a winery, it's usually like you see like all these hills.
Yeah,
you
this
see the
year,
forest.
I actually went to the Douro in Portugal.
Yeah.
We did the whole trip down the Douro River and seeing all the vineyards there and all that. It was like, wow, what a world. Because I never thought there would be so much. It's like hill after hill after hill. It's insane. And when you start thinking about how many people they need to pick all of these grapes up and to do all this stuff, because it's a short period of time that you have to pick these grapes up, right?
Yes.
And you're seeing how much is around you. You're like, oh, it's mind-boggling.
No, I know. That's one of the most beautiful thing. Like, first the landscape, as you said, like hill
beautiful.
after hill.
Amazing.
And then sometimes, especially in places like Douro, in Portugal in general, you also see like all the olive trees.
Yes.
You see cypress, you see a forest, you see grains, you see cherry trees.
Yeah.
Like it's very, there's a
beautiful.
variety.
It's
There is
just
a variety.
amazing, yeah.
And then of course when you have a little, like some understanding about, so why this grape variety grows here in Portugal and doesn't grow in southern Italy, why this grape varieties grows at this altitude and doesn't grow on flatlands.
It's all about these microclimates, right?
Yes, but it's also because, it's microclimate. But imagine that thousands of years ago, like the Romans, the Greeks, they didn't have any, let's say, science-based, but they were...
It was trial and error, no?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was observation. So the Roman used to plant the vines where the snow melted first, for example. So it meant that they had enough heat and enough sun, enough sunlight to make the vine grow and to be able to produce fruits. There are like so many aspects of the wine world that, and then the history, the winemaking techniques that are different in each place.
And a lot of those techniques have changed a lot lately, right? Yeah. And I've noticed that there's a big shift into more and more of the organic stuff as well. And I've noticed, I actually Googled your company, and you guys also have a lot of like wines geared towards that.
Yeah, like 95% of the wines that we represent, it's organic, at least.
What's the big difference when people say organic wine? What's the big difference between organic wine and
not
regular
organic
wine?
Okay, organic wine tends not to use any artificial products.
Okay.
For example, no pesticide, no herbicide. That's the first thing. So don't use these chemical products in the vineyard. Second, not using any chemical products in the cellar. So not putting any artificial acids, not putting any artificial tannins, not putting any colorant, not putting like extreme quantity of sulfite. This is the big difference. Not using chemicals, not using poisons.
So essentially going back to how wine was made back in the day.
Yeah, but there is also like a step beyond. There is also natural wine.
Okay, explain please. I just know how to drink it, and I like a lot of wine.
Okay, let's do this. So let's call it conventional wines.
Okay.
So conventional wineries that are usually industrial wineries, they want to make the biggest crop every single year. They want to produce the biggest amount of grapes, and they want to make the biggest amount of wine.
So should we say quantity over quality?
Yes.
Okay.
Also have to be honest, like the market demands that. There's a huge demand.
Yeah.
90% of the wines that you see in the supermarkets or in the store, in the LCBO store, they're conventional wines. So even like, for example, wines like Prosecco, Pinot Grigio, or like generic, like a Burnt Sauvignon or generic wine. Those are wines that, because they wanted to produce the biggest crop, they were treating the plants a lot.
Yeah.
Of course, they say like, but during the fermentation, but we wash the grapes, before making the wine. but there are particles of pesticide and herbicide that they stick in the wine. And then also like lots of modifying process during the winemaking techniques during the cellars. I'm not going to make any names, but there is a huge part in LCBO, in supermarket in Europe, because there is a huge demand. Then there is organic wine that they try not to use anything, even though they can use something, but usually they don't use at least pesticide and herbicide.
Okay.
Then there is natural wine that they don't use any of that. Plus, also they don't touch. They have low intervention in the vineyards, so they don't plug. They don't till.
So it just grows.
Yes, they actually they plant other herbs. For example, I have many wineries that they plant aromatic herbs that attracts the natural predator of the pest. For example, the ladybug, some spiders, that actually they're gonna eat the parasite.
Interesting.
The pest.
So
that's a natural
nature,
pesticide.
So they're using nature to combat that.
Or they plant also like a variety of crop, lemon trees, cherry trees, grains, vegetables, other herbs. But also like natural wine world. I have a critic also regarding that, but well-made natural wine is also like a way of living. Like many of my winemakers, they live in the vineyard. They live in the farm.
So these are also people that don't produce big quantities.
No,
so
usually
every year
smaller.
they only have X amount of wine to sell out, right?
Yes, and there is another big difference between conventional wine and natural wine. Conventional wine tends to make every single year the same taste in the wine that they're gonna sell. They strive, they aim for consistency. Mm-hmm. Even like big champagne producer, like I'm not gonna make name, but the most sold champagne.
They try to keep it always the
Consistency,
same consistency. Okay.
They fight for consistency.
But
that's
the
their goal. Natural wine, they actually want to showcase that every single vintage is different.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
So that they can, when they open a bottle, they know that this is this year and this is why.
Like smell or ripe is the wine. Feel the body in the wine because the vintage was very warm. So the warmer the vintage, the more sugar was in the grape and the more alcohol transformed.
Interesting.
The more sugar transformed in alcohol during the fermentation. So the wine has more alcohol because it was very warm. The fruits aromas are riper instead of being just fresh or tart. They're ripe and overripe because it was a very warm vintage.
And what about the time that the wine has to stay without being open? Now, do these natural wines have to be consumed quicker, or are those wines they're able to be stored for more time, more years, so that the flavors come out more? Like I know that time has an effect on the flavor of wine. How much of an effect does it have on the natural wine?
So these things about aging wine.
Yeah.
It's not given about your decision about the winemaking techniques. If you want to make conventional or natural wine, I'm going to explain. I'm going to try to explain.
I'm going to get educated here today.
Actually,
it's not about just drinking wine. It's about learning.
You want a sip of wine while we were talking about wine?
Okay, so what did you bring us?
Also because actually it's a little bit dry. So
okay.
Actually, I brought. So the first one is from Sicily. Should I show like somewhere? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's from Sicily, and it's actually comes from the Mount Etna. It comes from a volcano. It comes from volcanic soil.
Okay.
It's a mountain. At the same time, it's a volcano. It's actually an active volcano. Like if you go there, like there is like magma, like all the time. It's called Etna Rosso. Etna is the name of the mountain.
Okay.
And it's a blend of two local varieties, Nerello Mascalese and Nerello Cappuccio.
It sounds amazing.
Those are usually elegant wines.
All right. I think this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time we're having wine when doing a podcast. So this is amazing. Thank you so much, sir. All right. So before I start drinking, for somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, what should we be doing with the wine? So what should you be smelling or
if
tasting, or like how does this work?
Okay, depends what you want to do. If you want to do a tasting, like let's say a professional tasting, you have to start from the look.
The look, all right.
So you have to see like, so usually like you put it by a light, or you try to put it like by a very clear surface. You can put like your hand in this case, or like a white piece of paper. Like
so this one isn't too dark.
Yeah, it's more a garnet. So you see like which color is that? It can be ruby, it can be purple, it can be garnet.
Okay.
So the type of color. This is like more garnet, like it looks like a little bit brownish, right? If you put it like a little bit on the side. And then you can notice if it's like deep in color or it's more clear. In this case, like it's more clear, like you can see your hand, right?
And is there such a thing as darker is better than lighter, or lighter is better than darker, or is this just a myth?
So we are just describing now.
Okay.
So no, there is no. It always
because you
depends
hear
on the
this
taste.
so much.
It always depends on the taste. So there are people that like Pinot Noir that usually are more elegant wines. They're not on the power. They're more on the elegance. So there are people that why certain people like more Hugh Grant rather than Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's their taste.
It's their taste. Yeah.
And wine is the same. So Pinot Noir is Hugh Grant. Cabernet Sauvignon or Primitivo is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
There you go.
It's exactly like that. So it's your taste. So in this case, we are like a clear color. Then like let's see those are the two things, the most important things. You see which color, and you see like if it's clear or deep in color. Then you put your nose inside. And you see like, it's intense. So what's the intensity? So if you start smelling from here, it's very intense. If you have to stick your nose to start feeling the smell, as like a medium minus intensity. This is a medium because like you don't have to stick entirely your nose in the glass, but you start smelling from here. And then you can.
So now you this is where you can detect like what is added, because like in this one it's giving me a lot of strawberry and a lot of like.
Yeah. So this exercise is just to see
right or not.
No. You're always right. You're never wrong.
Okay.
You're never wrong.
That's good.
Especially when you're.
Can you tell this to my wife, please? If you're listening or watching, pay attention to Vincenzo. He knows.
He said you're never wrong. Then so this exercise about your nose is just to understand the intensity of the wine. Then we start to swear like this.
Okay, I'm right-handed, so this is gonna be better this way. I don't want to make a mess.
Or to start, for example, if you're a beginner, you put it here on the surface.
You just go around. Okay.
And it goes around.
So I'm gonna do the beginner because I'm the beginner.
I started like this as well.
So what are we looking for when we do this?
So when you do this, so there is the oxygen attached to the surface of the wine, and it makes all the aromas like go through the surface of the glass and come to the center of the glass.
So now I should smell
more
of the.
Yes. If you swear,
you're right. Interesting.
Of
course you're right. What am I saying? Of course he's right. He knows what he's talking about. I don't.
So, for example, if professionally you have to describe a wine, for example, blind tasting.
Yes.
Because like part of the exam to become a sommelier, they put you like 2 or 4 wines and you have to describe them, and then you have to guess which one is that.
Oh.
Already from the color, you can understand a lot about a wine. For example, if it has a clear color, it's not a Cabernet Sauvignon, it's not a Syrah, it's not a Malbec.
So
why?
You know what to put to the side right away.
Because these wines are very dark ruby or very dark purple, and they're never clear, so you never can see the paper or your hand. That now I'm doing like a sommelier, and then you swear, I say, and then you start understanding the fruit components. Those are called primary aromas. So you start noticing the fruit aromas.
Yes.
For example, I'm gonna say one fruit and you say one fruit. I say cherry. What else
I got strawberry for some reason.
Okay. What do they have in common, strawberry and cherry? They are red fruit.
Red fruits, yeah.
Exactly. So if myself and you are saying 2 red fruit, so what defines this wine is red fruit, primary aromas. So I can also like erase other wines, other grape varieties that usually have a dark fruit aromas. Like for example, Cabernet Sauvignon has a black fruit aromas.
Yeah.
You know, like a Malbec has a purple fruit aromas. They smell like blackberry. They smell like plum. They smell like blueberry. So this smells like red fruit. And then we say cherry, strawberry, raspberry. And then we also like other things that I do in smell. So is this fruit, is this cherry tart, fresh, ripe or overripe? That's what the sommelier ask himself. No, it's very interesting. It's
this
also
is
like
amazing, but wow.
Also like your mind works. So it's a very engaging exercise.
How long does it take you to start getting things right?
It's experience.
It depends on the person
experience.
too, right?
It's experience, but it's also like tasting other like more wines, as much wine as, for example, I used to buy all these different grape varieties. I used to go to, there are a couple of LCBO that have this machine called Denomatic. So they used to pour 1 ounce for like $4 of very expensive wine. So I used to taste all this crazy wine. Anyways, this is another story.
It's studying, right?
Yes,
you were studying.
Yeah.
Interesting. So we're gonna take a sip and see what this is.
On the palate, you can understand. Okay, I was saying on the nose, you start saying if it's fresh, ripe, or overripe. In my opinion, this is like more on the fresh, on the fresh fruit, fresh and ripe. So again, for example, we said red fruit. Usually, for example, a grape like Primitivo has always ripe, overripe, and jammy fruit. So this is, I'm sure it's not a Primitivo because the fruit here is just fresh and ripe, you know, on the nose. But also like then on the nose, you can, it's not just fruit. What else you feel like? It's an earthy wine. It's an herbal wine. It's a vegetal wine. Yeah. It's, you know, you can make like many descriptions. It's not just about the fruit. It's a smoky. It's meaty. It's mineral. It's very complex.
And
it's very complex.
These flavors or these smells that we get when we're having the wine, these are all predetermined. Like whoever's making the wine makes it that certain way with those fruits. No. So how do we achieve those tastes and those smells?
So 80% of the taste and the smell of a wine is the grape variety.
Okay.
Each grape variety has a different DNA. It has a different structure. So for example, there are grape varieties that have very thick skin.
Yes.
There are grape varieties that are very juicy. There are grape variety that the grape is much larger. I mean, is much bigger or is much smaller. And then it changed the ratio between skin and pulp. Or there are grape varieties that have seeds that release a huge amount of tannins. Or there are grape varieties that they don't have tannins at all.
Wow.
But okay, it's the grape variety, but it's also the climate. And then in the end, it's actually the winemaking techniques. If you put the juice in oak, if you put it just in stainless steel, if you put it just in concrete, there are many factors.
This is interesting, man.
I know. I can talk hours about this.
I knew that there was a lot of things a lot of little pieces of the puzzle when it comes to winemaking, but listening to you with all of these different variations, different things that you can have in the wine, I'm surprised because it's just a lot to learn and to remember all this stuff.
I'm like an average level, let's say. There are people so expert that they're expert, like master sommelier, master of wine. Those are professional figure, let's say, like professional people that are paid by a huge company to create like the wine list of the biggest cruise company in the world. Or they're writers, they're journalists about wine. They can even nail down the vintage or the village where the wine comes from. And I swear, I saw people nailing the vineyards, the plot of land where the wine comes from.
Wow.
I saw it.
But that has to be a special kind of person.
Like a trained person that practice every single day of his life. You know, it's like being Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, listen, like there are maybe, let's say, 1 million people that study wine or studied wine, but there are just, let's say, 600 master sommelier in the world.
Yeah. And then from those, there's probably a handful that are the top.
No, but at the master sommelier, you are already at the top of the world.
Wow.
Yeah. In Toronto, there are actually 3 master sommelier living in Toronto. And actually, one of them was my teacher.
Oh, so you had a good teacher.
I learned a lot from him.
So all of this wine business, you decided to just get together with
Domenico.
Domenico, your current partner there.
Yeah.
And so that adventure, when did it start for you? How long ago?
4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Almost 5.
And how has that journey been from, studying to now owning your own business and going through all of the business side of things? Because now it's not just tasting wines. It's not just going to parties. Now there's a whole other side to it. So how's that been?
All the things that we said, I learned these things before starting the business. I'm very lucky because I don't know if I would have the time to learn all these things while running a business. I don't know. So I think the timing was very good. So if I opened by the time that I met Domenico, when I just arrived here, maybe like it wouldn't have been the same. I wouldn't have the same knowledge about the wine. I wouldn't have the time to go in France. And I wouldn't have like most importantly, all the connection, because studying with, his name is Bruce Wallner, Master Sommelier, studying with him in his class, I met all the people that would become my clients, my future clients, but I didn't know.
You didn't know?
Of course I didn't know. Like
That's
I didn't
so
know that I would open like Alta Wines, my business company, right? So they were friends, of course. We were having a good time learning about wine, and then after class we were drinking wine or drinking cocktails, whatever. Some of them are still my best friends nowadays.
Yeah. Wow.
But how it started. So started, I think, 2018. We got the license. We were representing just a couple of wineries from Puglia, from my region. Those were the wines that I used to drink before coming here.
Okay.
So they gave me the opportunity to represent them. And I was selling like exactly like this, like the bottle with the cork, because I didn't have a Coravin. I couldn't afford, not even like a wine bag. I didn't have a car. Wow. I used to go from restaurant to restaurant to these people that I met in these wine classes or wine shows with my bicycle, with my backpack, and with bottles with the cork, open bottles. And now I can I have these bottles because I finished the gas of Coravin. That's another story. I couldn't afford this machine because now when I do the tasting, I have this machine that with a needle goes in the cork, takes the wine, pours the wine in the glass, and then injects a gas that prevents the contact between the oxygen and the water. It's crazy. Don't have it with me, otherwise I will show you.
We'll see if we get a shot of that afterwards.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
No, I'll show you. I'll show you. So I was going around with a couple of wineries, and then I made like a couple of clients, the first client, the second clients, then 10 clients. Then these 10 clients allowed me to sell enough wine to have like enough money to buy more wine. So I started calling this winery and say like, listen, like, are you guys represented in Ontario? So this is the how it works.
The sales pitch?
Yeah, the sales pitch. Actually, the buying pitch.
The buying pitch, yes.
Yeah. It's like, are you guys represented in Ontario? No, we're sorry. Would you be interested? But I remember at the beginning, everybody was saying, who are you? Like, what do you do? Like, who do you represent? How many clients do you have? How many wineries do you represent? So I said, like, listen, I just started, like, but I have to be very grateful. And in fact, like the first wineries that I started working with are in the first page of my portfolio, and they will be there forever, because they were the first people to believing in me. And
Nice.
also, I'm very grateful for the first clients here in Toronto that believed in me, and they're always like they're my, not just my favorite, but those are the clients that I will always follow myself. Even now, we are hiring people, salespeople.
Yeah.
But the first clients, like I'm gonna still go there.
They have that
them.
special place, right?
Because they were the first one believing in this guy with a bicycle, going with his backpack with this, like a couple of samples that maybe like were oxidized bottles. So I didn't have experience, right?
Yeah.
So I learned a lot working. And then from 2 wineries, we went to 3 wineries. From 3 wineries, I remember 7. From 7, 14. From 14, 20. From 20. Now we have like more than 40 wineries.
Oh, wow.
We have more we're almost like 300 products in our catalog, like in our portfolio. I'm adding maybe another 5-6 wineries this year.
Wow.
From Italy. And I'm adding maybe another 5-6 from France. That's my goal for 2023.
Amazing, man. So this is from 2018 to now.
Yeah.
And let's not forget there was a pandemic in the middle.
And then also like we were storing our, a few cases, for the mixed cases. I mean, I can tell you like so many stories. So we were storing some wine cases in the storage of the building where Domenico used to live, and then bringing these cases to like the 4th floor with no elevator. Like it was a mess.
This is why you have to start your own podcast. I'm telling you have all these stories. We'll help you out, man. But you got to start, because I think this is really interesting. These stories are what make entrepreneurship interesting, right? Because a lot of times we look at people that have a business, we see the end product, but we don't realize what it took to get there, right?
Exactly.
And the more years you're in business, the more stories you're going to get. And I feel like the most interesting part, and now we have the opportunity to, put some cameras on, some microphones, and have conversations. And the crazier thing is there are people who love to listen to these stories. And I'm sure that a lot of, of our viewers, they're young entrepreneurs that are starting a business, but doesn't matter what kind of business it is. We all go through these kind of similar experiences. We start here, and then you evolve there, and then you learn, and then you do some more, and then you made a mistake, but you learn from the mistake, and you keep on going, which is important too. Like, I think a lot of people think that it's just like, oh, we're going to get lucky and we're going to keep on going. You might be lucky, but in most cases, you're going to have to make a mistake, but it's okay, as long as it's not too bad, to keep on going.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's...
So what's the plan for the future now?
The plan for the future, I really like reach some goals. So now I feel very lucky. Even though it's not, I can be like, let's say, proud, because now we have like an office, we have a warehouse, we have a person that does delivery for us.
Not on the bike.
Now we have. So now we have like 4 cars. We didn't have any car before.
Okay, so it's not on the bike.
So for the future, I still want to work on my skills. Mm-hmm. As a businessman, as an entrepreneur, as a salesman. I want to improve my skills in selling, in following up with people. So I want to improve my skills dramatically, because I still know that I can do much better in certain aspect of my job. Sometimes I tend to feel comfortable. So for example, if I'm talking from like openly. For example, in the past, if I made like a huge sale, say, okay, I had enough for today. So I rested for the rest of the day. But no, I can still push. I still have the energy. I still have the time. So I wanna improve that. I want to improve the communication with my clients. I want to improve the way of getting a new client. That's personally. Yeah. Then the service. I want to improve the service. So I want to create a team. I want to have like more people in sales. I want to have double of the clients that we have. So that's the quality of the service that I want to improve. I want a person that does only invoice, that does invoices, that wants to get the credit back. That it's a thing that takes a lot of my time, and the more time these things take, the lower the quality of the services.
The admin stuff is actually in a business. Admin is what takes away from the sales, what takes away from a lot of the quality control that you're talking
visiting
about.
A client.
Right?
Instead of visiting a client, I'm calling. I'm looking at the number. I'm looking like who didn't pay for like 90 days.
That doesn't, you want to be able to speak to them. No, 100%.
Instead of visiting clients, I'm calling the courier to organize the delivery. No, we reach a point now that we are a medium-sized business that wants to invest in creating a team.
But it's interesting you're saying this, because I was just having this conversation with my wife today about, in my business, how that has been sort of like a little bit of a block in the growth of my businesses, because we fall into that trap that we want to control everything. We want to do all the little things. And what happens is sometimes when you're too busy doing all the little things, you can't pay attention to the big things, to where you want to actually go. And it's for me to hear you're already in that zone. I think you're in the right track.
Oh, thank you.
And I think that's the way every entrepreneur should think. It's like, in the beginning, you have to do what you have to do. We get it. It's okay. But then learn how to step aside. I think that's my biggest advice to people who are starting businesses as well. Learn to step aside and do what you're good at. If you're good in sales, if that's what you do, get better at it.
Yes. Yeah,
get better at it.
You know what I said today to my business partner? Actually, it was a question. It wasn't like an affirmation that I said. I said, what's the difference between building a company and running a company?
Two very different things.
So I said, how you build a company, and how you run a company. You build a company with vision and planning. You run a company with executing your plan.
Yes.
So this year, I want to have more time for vision, big decision, where I want to bring my company in the future. I want to have more time in planning my vision, for example, big events, acquiring new product, go to find new products like I did in January.
Yeah.
And less executing, like delivering.
The little things.
Like tasting, like do all the tasting with all the clients. So I want to delegate the execution part. Of course, I'm still going to do it because I like it. And I want to do it, especially like, before I was saying with my first clients, I still want to do it. And I like it. But more vision, more planning. If I want to resume, to make like another long story short, more vision, more planning, less executing for 2023. That's
amazing, man. Amazing. Well, this was good. We're going to finish it off with just a one question.
Yes.
Are we going to go train today or what's going to happen?
Yeah. What time is it?
It's 6:30. We still have time?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go. We're probably going to go train. We're going to probably be partners and
let's do it.
But before we leave, just a little bit on that. Martial arts. And I know how long have we been talking, Paul? An hour and something? Oh, we're okay. If Joe Rogan can do 3 hours, we can do an hour. Okay, so we're good.
Okay, no, we're good. It's real. It's for real. 6:30.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What time is class? 7:30.
Yeah, we still have another 5-10 minutes.
Let's say 5 minutes.
Okay, we're good. Okay. Don't worry about it. We'll slice this up for people who aren't patient. If you're not patient, we're gonna have short videos. It's okay. Martial arts. This is how we met, right?
Yes.
So we met. I'm going to say probably this was before the pandemic,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
You
were always ahead of me. You were already there. I slowly trying. I'm still, running a little bit behind, but it is the way things are. But that's where we met. And we still have classes together and all that. And then you once told me, I also do jiu-jitsu. I'm like, holy cow. This guy, he really he likes this kind of life. Yeah. What does martial arts bring to your life that you push yourself so much to be there and to show up, like we were saying?
Yeah, for me, it's like prove to myself that I can reach bigger goal, that I can have discipline, that I can have clarity, that makes me healthy, makes me calmer, makes me more patient, makes me less stressed, makes me more peaceful. That's what brings me. Yeah, that's honestly, like, it's a big part of my life.
Do you ever see yourself stopping?
No, never.
Interesting.
Never. I don't see myself. I mean, anything can happen.
Of course,
but
I'm saying,
like, I have a huge dark side in myself. Huge. Like, also I started because I'm very I tend to overdo everything. So I used to tend to overdo partying and drink. Actually, I transformed that in a job. And actually, now that became a job, I drink like 10 times less. It's incredible. Like, I have full access of wine every single day. And I drink. Yeah, life. I never drink. Life. Yeah. Oh, exactly. So it's what I was saying, it brings me discipline. It brings me, I want to push myself. I want to be healthier. I want to be I have to be honest. Like, sometimes when I see myself in the mirror with a gi, I think that's my true nature. And then now, like, the way I'm dressing now and the way that I'm sitting now is just actually a costume.
It's funny you're saying that, because when you walked in, I'm like, oh, he looks different today. I always see him on a gi with the gi
of his shorts, when we do cardio combat.
Exactly.
No, yeah. Sometimes I think, like Superman and Clark Kent.
Yeah, we go in with the.
Superman is Superman and Clark Kent is a costume. Exactly. Sometimes I feel that myself in a gi, it's my true identity, and then all this wine and vodka stuff is just a costume. It's funny.
That's interesting.
I also come from like a family of martial artists, but this is like another podcast.
It runs in the. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. Well, listen, you're a good partner to spar with. I have to say. Sometimes he pulls some jiu-jitsu stuff on me that I'm like, I keep telling him I'm an old guy, but I can take it though.
It's true. I did it a couple of times. Some arm bars, some chokes.
Listen, I'm okay with that. I'm still debating, which is kind of crazy. At my age, I'm still debating jiu-jitsu.
Or not, yeah.
But I don't think so. It's just because, I don't know. I think I'm going to stick to karate and just go with that, because jiu-jitsu it's amazing from what I can see from everybody else. But I think, like anything in life, it has an age, right? If you've been, I think, practicing jiu-jitsu for a long time and you're now 50 or 60 or so, that's different because you have the experience from before. So it's not going to be so bad in your body. But I think now me going into it, I think that might be a little bit of a shock. So I'm going to stay okay. I mean, my wife is probably watching this. Don't worry, I'm not going to kill myself. She's always afraid, are you going to kill yourself? No, I'm not. But karate is one of those things that I've always been the kid, like, as a kid, I was always looking at the karate movies and, all of those things that we used to watch when we were kids. Beautiful. And I always thought, I always enjoyed watching it, but I never really thought that, I would be practicing it. And when I started, I was 40 when I started.
Amazing. Good for you, man.
And I never thought I would get to the point I am today and feel as good as I feel today. Because it's not so much about being a black belt or being this or being it. It's more about what it makes you feel. And talking to you, I think you're in that same zone, the way that it helps us more mentally sometimes than physically.
Yeah, just wanna say another thing about you, because I spoke about me all the time. No, like I remember when you started. I remember when you had a white gi, and actually, like, looking a person with a white gi, like myself included, like we feel like a little bit like a fish out of the bowl.
And just for context,
like it's
people,
really, like it's yeah.
For people who don't know, in our dojo, we start off, the white belt is with the white gi, so what we wear is the white, and then we go into a red gi. And then only when you go to a brown belt, you go into a black gi.
Yes.
Right?
But when you are a white belt with a white gi, is at least in my opinion, is the most uncomfortable feeling I ever felt in my life, ever experienced in my life. Like the first day with the white gi. Anyway,
lost.
I think
You're
it was
lost.
there your first day probably. I remember when you were with the white gi, and I noticed with my eyes like huge improvements. Like, man, like you, but like even like I think I missed like 1 year when I was in France, and I think you already started by the time. And I remember like you were with a black gi like all of a sudden, because I stopped for a few months, and I said like, oh man, like huge improvements. I remember. Yeah. So good for you.
No,
good for you.
Like, I try.
And I know, but like I always like, I was a little bit picky. Like in the past, I wasn't humble. Like when I started, when you were 25, 26, like, so I always wanted to do like the biggest, the strongest, the most experienced partner. Now it's a little bit less, but I still prefer to have like a nice partner. So like you work hard. And yeah,
you always want to get somebody. A partner that is in your level at a certain point, right? Yeah. Because you don't want to be kicking and punching someone, not directly. Sometimes we use a lot of the pads and stuff like that. But if the partner can't take those punches and those kicks, doesn't feel the same, right?
Or is not aware, or is not present in the moment. It's just there because like you just.
I mean, we work with everybody in our dojo,
but it happens that sometimes can be frustrating, to be honest. But you're a great partner, so I'm very proud of training with you. And
likewise, man. Likewise.
Thank you.
It's been good, and thank you so much for coming over, bringing some wine for the first time in our podcast. This is amazing, and I hope you enjoyed this experience.
Love it.
All right.
I felt at home. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. And you guys at home, if you want some wine, you know the guy. He's right here.
Alta Wines. That's the name of my company.
Yeah, we'll put it up here somewhere. The editing will be, Thank you.
All
right, thank you so much.
Thank you.